We're back. Hey guys, it's the Ted Show, and I'm Ted Bogert. And nobody really cares about that right now because they all care about the one, the only, the coaching guru, the stellar coaching guru, Kendra Davies. What's up, Kendra? Welcome back.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody.
I'm so glad to have you back. My schedule has prohibited us from having our weekly sessions.
It's been busy.
I know, it's been awful, and I'm sorry. We're going to get back to normal starting next week. But why miss another week? If you have Wednesday at 3 open, then I have Wednesday at 3 open.
I've always got time for you, Mr. Bogert.
I love it. And I am always working to make sure I have time for you. So Kendra Davies is obviously the coaching guru. StellarLifeCoaching.com is her website. She comes on and we talk it out. We have great topics, great conversations, all of which are her idea mostly. But this week is super cool. Just go for it.
Go for it.
Listen, that is the theme of 2020. If you haven't embraced that, I think you're missing out. But before we take a deep dive so that I can share the show on all of my social media pages, Kendra, tell us a little bit about you for somebody who's just tuning in, and a little bit about Stellar Life Coaching.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Kendra Davies, and I'm a positive psychology practitioner and a life coach. I own Stellar Life Coaching here in Orlando, and I work with individuals, businesses, couples, small groups, teams. I work with people to identify, define, and cultivate happiness. And obviously happiness is a subjective term and we all define it differently. And the path to get from point A to point B may require some tweaking. So as a coach, I help coach through that process and help drive results to live your best life. Yeah. My specialty is in beliefs and fears and breaking through and really feeling empowered in our own skin to live the life that we want.
I think we all want that, right? No, that's why I think what you do is so amazing, because people, we all need experts in our lives. We all need people who can help us break through, and having you as part of it, how could you miss out? So I want you to go to StellarLifeCoaching.com, reach out to Kendra, reach out during this, reach out anytime. We've tagged her. I mean, seriously, you can find her. Reach out to me. I'll give you her number. So I love our conversations. This one is so important, like I mentioned before, like everyone is. But I feel like people are, in 2020, they're going for it. They're taking risks. Or they want to, and they know they've been furloughed, let go, had to change careers. And they're trying to figure out how to maneuver through all of the craziness we've been dealing with. And yet sometimes they hold back and they don't just go for it. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the steps. When we're talking about just go for it, should I leave my six-figure job and go open my wood shop around the corner? Right, I clenched a little bit when I said that, because you want to have some planning involved. So when we encourage people to take a risk or just go for it, there's also steps involved. So can you go through that a little bit with them? I think it's important for people to take a leap, but take a little bit of a planned, brainstormed, fleshed out.
There's a difference between just going for it and then self-sabotaging, right? So like, we're not saying go self-sabotage and destroy your life. I'm not saying that. However, when I thought about the topic, when I wrote it, what I meant was there's this thing alive in you. Yeah. Maybe there's something that you've wanted to do, a cause that you like, it keeps you up at night, like this thing that you just can't get away from. Right? It like follows you. It's a nagging of something you should do. You should write a book. You should go somewhere. You should get on a plane. You should travel. You should marry this person. You should say, I love you. You should apologize. Whatever that thing is, that calling, that's what I'm talking about. Now, I can tell you in my experience that what stands out the most is that when people have a calling, a thing that is pulling them to another person, another thing, that purpose or meaning, it is unique, right? Like I have a client who loves cats and she has a cat rescue. I have another client that I worked with, right? I don't wake up in the morning and be like, I want to save all the cats. All the cats matter to
No,
me. I
but I
don't have
know
that.
people like her. I know people
Yeah,
who that is a
for
passion. That
sure.
is what they want to do.
And the thing is that when you have this calling, it feels almost isolating sometimes, right? Because it's alive in you, but it's not out in the universe yet. So it's just pulling at you, gnawing at you. Little breadcrumbs, little synergies start happening, and you see it, but then you don't pursue. And so to me, the first step is in recognizing and discerning what the calling is, right?
How do we
So
do that? That is hard.
yeah,
I know why you make that the first step, because to me that's the hardest, is trying to identify it, trying to
hmm,
verbalize it, or write it
yeah,
down, and really try to wrap your head. Because saying I love cats or cats are my mission is one thing. Saying I
yeah,
want a cat rescue is another thing. So developing it and really thinking it
yeah.
through, I think is where people get held up.
Yeah. And I mean, I had a client, we had like 4 sessions together. You know, he was in sales, he was successful, he was young, like on the surface, his life on paper was good. And on our 4th session, I was like, hey, it's been great chatting with you. Seems like you got everything under control. You don't hire a coach to tell him how good you're doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I need a job. And he says to me, I'm sitting here. I know you're trying to hang up the phone, but I have this plaque above my bed. And it says, I want to leave a legacy in print. And I was like, hold the phone. What are you saying to me? Right? Like, you have a calling to be a writer. We've talked for 4 hours. You've not mentioned writing, not one time. Are you writing? What are you doing? If you have that, that is alive in you.
Yes.
And I mean, he is one of my favorite client stories, because he ultimately did quit that job. He ultimately did start writing that book. He's traveled, he's done the things, like he's gone back to school, got a master's degree in writing. Like he's living that purpose and that meaning, and he followed that intuition and trusted that. And it's a beautiful story. And we hear these stories all the time. But when it comes for us, sometimes it's not, I want to write a book. Sometimes it's just, I want to say I'm sorry, you know,
Yes.
like I messed up, and that person has moved on and I've moved on and things are done, but the thing just gnaws at me sometimes, you know, in the quiet moments. Sometimes it's that simple. Whatever that thing is, go for it. Because when it's alive in us, it matters. It matters. If you want to
Yes.
leave a legacy in print, and you spend your entire life in sales, you are never going to feel fulfilled.
You're never going to feel, I feel like people who do that, and we all have been there, like I feel like most of us have taken a job or been in a relationship or something where we know it's not the right thing. It's not our end game. It's not our
Mm-hmm.
calling. And yet we sit in it. I think we mull in it, and we kind of bathe in it, and we get
Mm,
all dirty and gross, and then we can't seem to clean ourselves off. Why? Because we're still in the mud and the muck with it.
yeah. Step 2, give me your objections. What is in the way? I don't call him and I don't apologize, because you know what? He didn't deserve it. He did this, and this, and this. Cool. Just write that down. Step 3, we're going to address that. Right? like, like just
I
write it
hope so.
down. Tell me what the objections are. I can't quit my job because I need security. I have kids. I have this. Like, whatever your objections are, what is in the way? Right? So, what gets in the way of pursuing our purpose is usually not what we think it is. They're actually just the excuses we make to not have to do hard things. Now, I am not saying quit your job and open your restaurant. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that getting clear on what it is that is alive in you and what is in the way matters. Because the
Yes.
more you look at it, the more you peel back those layers, what you will find is you don't want to call that person because you're really afraid that they're not going to accept your apology and you're going to feel like a fool, right? They're going to know that you're still thinking about it. They're going to know that you're the one who's losing sleep over it, and they're not. That fear. We
Yes.
can address that, right? Everything else is noise. So identify what is in the way. What beliefs, what fears are we really dealing with here, right?
Yes. I think we don't want to. We fight it, right? Because
Yeah.
then we have to admit that maybe, oh my God, maybe part of this is my responsibility. No, it can't be my fault. Or we don't want to address things that the narrative that we have filled our head with since God knows when, and that is the narrative we accept. If we have to change that, then it challenges so many other things. And so we fear challenging that, and we fear addressing it.
Yeah. So step 3, how would your life be better if you just did it? You know, at the end of the day, we underestimate how much the weight of not apologizing is. Think of the energy and the time you spent thinking and feeling and carrying the weight of this apology, or this burden of wanting to be a writer and not writing a word, hiding your art, right? Like keeping yourself back, playing small. Like these things are freaking exhausting.
Yes.
It is taking up time, space, and energy. It's keeping you from connection. It's keeping you from pursuing something that feels meaningful and fulfilling. So write out how your life would be better if you just did it. What would happen if you did? Yeah.
That's powerful. That's powerful because I think people think that they have enough of knowledge that they don't like what they're doing. But if you actually would write down how it would improve your life, how it would be better for you, I think that's eye-opening, very cathartic, because then I'm like, all right, so these are the positive changes. Don't I want to have that? Don't I want to feel that? Don't I want to be part of something that I know is really the direction of my calling, rather than some job that I took because I went to school and got the degree everyone told me I should. I got in the relationship everyone told me I should. I shouldn't apologize to that person because XYZ, like you mentioned earlier. And yet you're still carrying it.
Exactly. And you know what? Step 4 is going to blow your mind if that was powerful.
Uh-oh.
Step
Taking a
4,
sip. Here we go.
write down how the world would be impacted if you did it. Because we underestimate the power of these little choices and decisions, right? Your decision to write your book could change the lives of millions. Like you don't even know, because it might go nowhere, but it might explode. Like, are you going to be on Oprah? Do you know? So it's possible, right? What would happen? What lives would be impacted if you went back and you made that amends? Right? It doesn't matter if they accept the amends or not. Think about your actions, your choice. How would the world, your community, your families, who would be impacted and how? I tell this story often when we think about impact, and that is like there are 10 steps for a cup of coffee to come into existence. Yeah. From the time that the trees are planted to the time it reaches your cup, there are 10 steps, and thousands of human beings touch those beans, roast those beans, mill those beans, pull the cherries, sniff the things, taste the things, categorize the things, package and then ship the things. Like so much goes into a single cup of coffee, and you sit there ignorant as all get out, sipping that coffee as if it was just your $4 that made it happen. And the reality is that our choices every single day are just like that cup of coffee, just like it. We have a ripple effect. My decision to smile at a stranger and tell her she looks fierce in those boots today at Starbucks matters, right?
It matters so much. I mean, you probably that person, if like that example, person turned around. And it just the ripple effect. You've seen those commercials, those YouTube things where one good deed leads to another good deed. It's contagious being able to do that. And then you really are making an impact, not just on that individual, but on everyone that individual comes in contact with.
And that individual could affect another individual in the same way. And then you literally just have this snowball effect. And here's the thing. If you want to underestimate your impact in the world, recognize that you can do it by just not asking the question.
Right.
Like, it's that simple. If I want to exist in the world and feel like I don't have meaning and purpose, at some point, we have to recognize that it becomes a choice, right? choose to see your impact, choose to see how you're significant. One of the challenges that, I mean, I personally have struggled with, every coach that I know that gets any notoriety or has any real influence struggles with this too. This idea that we're supposed to be perfect and have our shit together and like, you know, not have any problems. And obviously my kid is well behaved and I have no relationship
You're
problems.
perfect because you're a coach.
I'm me. Right. But that's not the way that it works, right?
It doesn't.
It truly isn't. And it's our lived experience that allows us to do that. But the thing is that what each of these people know and what I know is that people ultimately end up buying me, right? At the end of the day, I could write the program and I can post the PDF on the internet all day long, but it's me talking to you that has that impact, that says, read it, that this is what's in it and it matters and it's significant and it can change your life. And I say that to you and you believe it and then you read it and then you apply it and then boom, magic.
Yes.
I can choose to play small and say, I'm just a little coach in Winter Park, Florida, you know, like it's really not that big a deal. It's whatever. Or I can step into my purpose and I can say, if one person outside of my immediate family and friends could be impacted by what I do for a living, I matter. I am significant. The work that I do is significant. And it's impossible to show up fully and not do it. It's impossible. It's going to happen if we show up.
Why do we hesitate to show up? What is it? Are we afraid of
Step
rejection
2.
or imposter syndrome or
Yes.
I just feel like a lot of times people, we've talked about imposter syndrome on the show before. People that stops so many people because they feel like they have an idea, they have a feeling, they have a gut, they have a calling, and yet they're afraid that if they step outside, that people will realize that they don't have, like you mentioned earlier, all of their shit together.
Well, and I think that at the end of the day, if you're waiting for it to be perfect, it's never going to happen.
Great.
If you're waiting to be ready, it's never going to happen. It's like when people say, I'm not ready to have kids. Like, you're never ready to have kids.
Listen,
I'm not ready to have
it. 20s. I wasn't ready. I'm still not ready to have kids.
It's like, we're never ready. You're never ready to write that book. You know what I mean? Like, that book is alive in you. It isn't about ready, fair, the right timing. It's not about any of those things. It's really a matter of choosing to recognize that this is your jam. I wake up in the morning and I have purpose and I have meaning. I choose it. I see it. I put myself out there. I write the content. I get on this show. I talk. I use my words. Like, I'm the one who shows up, right?
Yeah.
Now, you do the same thing. This client who decided to quit his job and write his book and go back to school, he did the things. He took the risk. Was he ready? Hell no. Did he know what was going to happen? No. But what happens is when we make the choice, when we see the things that are in the way, and then how our lives will be better if we just went for it. Like, you can't this wins almost every single time. Almost every single time. And when you consider the impact that this choice will make, you realize that when you decide to not play small, you're not selfish, egotistical, or boastful. You're serving the world. Like, you are doing a service to others. And you transition. You go from ego and fear to like meaning and purpose and no longer playing small.
And it's cathartic, right? It's so healing. I when you were mentioning earlier, a little smaller and a little bit, but I feel like it was a big impact. I recently reached out to somebody that I used to be close to and I'm not anymore. And they lost a parent and I knew that parent. And, there was a struggle going back and forth. I'm like, well, do I reach out? Will they even accept the reaching out? I don't even really know why we're not friends anymore, but I've moved on. He's moved on. And I thought it stopped me for a little bit. I'm like, I should not text him. I shouldn't. But so looking back, it's so stupid now. And I could kick myself for waiting. But I did finally talk myself into it. I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? And so I did it. And then I immediately felt better. I felt like I did what I knew I needed to do to try to reach out to somebody who used to be important to me, whose memory is still important to me, but that was going through something. So what does that do? That begins to reestablish the relationship. Is it going to happen every time? No. But what I loved about it is I did something that I knew was going to make an impact on him. And I got past my own crazy fears of, oh my God, what's he going to think? Is he going to reject me? Is it going to be bad? That small little thing was so cathartic for me personally. Yeah. And I can imagine it was cathartic for him as well.
And I mean, think about that, even that, like in today's times, right? In COVID-19 times, when connection is so hard, like just making the choice to send the text when you have the thought, right? Like I've given up all manners. Like if I remember it's your birthday at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to shoot you a text and just say, sorry for the late text. Happy birthday. Like the thing is that I realize that if I am going to try to put my manners ahead of it, then I'm going to forget.
Yes.
And they matter. And this thing that I need to say matters. And so I'm just going to honor it. I'm going to say sorry for the late text and I'm going to send it to you. If that's a happy birthday, hey, I saw your post. I'm sorry about your loss. Whatever that is, right? I'm going to just do it. I'm just going to go for it because you matter. You're going to see it when you see it. If you don't like it, you can tell me not to text you, but that's probably not going to happen, right? But at the end of the day, when I and anyone go to sleep at night, right? What matters most is, did I live within my values? Did I act outside of that? Did I hurt another person intentionally, even unintentionally? Like, that's really the fundamental thing. And I think that when we start to see our purpose as like, I'm serving others when I live my purpose. I'm not egotistical. I'm not boastful. I'm not just, out here showboating. I'm in my purpose. You realize you're serving others. And by playing small, you're not serving others.
So what can we do to not play small, Kendra?
Go for it.
Just go for it, right?
Just go for it. I feel like
people get caught up again in whatever stigma that they have created, whatever narrative that they've created in their heads of what will happen if they do just go for it. So if somebody's evaluating, like they're listening to the show and they're like, you know what, Kendra, you're right. Should they write it all down? Like what's some good tools for them to try to process through? Because not everybody, although I don't know why, has a coach like Kendra Davies. So if you don't, run screaming to Kendra. But if that's not your ball game right now, what can people do to kind of begin that process?
Yeah. And this is going to be step 5. This is list out the steps, simple steps. I just want literally the play-by-play. I could text. I could look them up on Facebook. I can see, how they are. Is it appropriate for me to reach out right now? Right? Like I could take that step. I could research writing programs if I'm trying to write a book. I could look up ghostwriters if I've got the money, but I don't have the time to write my book. I could take steps, any steps towards that thing. Whatever was in step 1, whatever is gnawing at me, whatever is my calling, whatever is generating that meaning and that purpose that I'm playing small with, any steps that can be taken, all of them, like just brain dump. I could write in my phone. I could stop making excuses about writer's block. I do 15 minutes of free flow until I feel like I got my flow and my jam, and then I'll sit down, right? I can get a writing coach. I could take acting lessons, right? I want to be on TV. Well, what are you going to do? What are those steps? What is the thing and how do you do it? And then you just go for it. Make the appointment, get the tutor, get the coach, get the, join the program, write the program, create your first workshop, host your first retreat, like just go for it. Because playing small isn't serving anyone and it will never feel good.
And even that first step, when you're talking about some of these steps, just going for it, just doing what you know you need to do, even if it's the most minute baby step, trust me, you're going to feel good, because that's probably the first positive forward step you've made toward a very nice, wonderful, cathartic journey of getting to where you want to be. So take the first step, even if it's not the full step you want to take. It's better to take a baby step than not take a step at all, because it helps give you the confidence. Wow, I did this. Look at what kind of impact it made just by me doing this. So now I can embrace a little more. And then you begin to feel more comfortable and more confident in moving forward.
And you know what? What I often see is that people actually know what the thing is. Step one usually isn't where people get stuck, right? It's really in the doing. What I find is that there are people who took actions, but they didn't finish them, right? Oh, well, I started that writing course. I looked into like an Instagram marketing course. I tried to, like, there's a lot of half measures. There's a lot of, I got halfway through the course and then my life happened and then I stopped, right? And in the Slay sessions, my goals workshop, I always say that a lack of a sense of urgency is sudden death to goals. Like, you have to pursue this. It's not just think about it or like just try. Like, it's just do it. It's just go for it. Go in, jump, and know that whatever the thing is, right? I had a client who had literally not finished her website in 2 years. She'd been working on her website for 2 years. I'm like, well, you don't have clients. You want to make money? Is that what you're trying to do?
Right. I'm sorry. Like, what are you doing? Yes.
Oh, that's fun. Okay.
We get caught up in that, though. We're always I'm working on it. I'm working on that. I'm developing that. And what happens, you're right. So 2 years later, if you're in that same position, you're not working on it. You have delayed it for whatever reason.
And you got to reset. Then you don't go back to doing the website. You don't. You're not going to do that website right now. Pin it up on the board. Throw money at it. Get somebody else to fucking do it.
Yes.
And then find another task that you can and are willing to do. Like, be real with yourself. And if you can't do it, then do hire a coach. Do hire a therapist or somebody to help support you and get this done. Because it's alive in you. And it will never be fulfilling if you don't do it.
I agree. I recently hired someone because I try to do all my social media myself. I have little bits of help here and there. And I finally got someone involved because I wanted to up my game on certain platforms. Well, you know what? I'm a control freak. I'll be the first to admit it. I have a problem.
What?
Imagine. No. I know, it's crazy. Who'd have thought? But I didn't want to take the step. Why? Because I thought, well, how am I going to control somebody that I'm not in touch with, like right here? How's this going to happen? And so I had to take the leap of faith and know that was not what I was going to get done. Just like you said, somebody else was going to have to implement that for me and take care of that, because that was not even in my radar, even though I knew it needed to be done. So my first step was hiring someone. Yeah. And to hire someone was horrifically scary when you're talking about your livelihood, your social media, what makes you what you are on these platforms. And I just had to say, I mean, you can't do any worse than me. So bring it. And then that got me through to the next step. So I have, and he would probably tell you, oh God, yeah, Ted Bogert. Wow, this has been my biggest challenge. Why? A little bit of a pain in the butt. But the second project I gave him, I'm less of a pain. I'm less stressed out about it, because I understand the impact he's making based on the direction I'm giving, and he's handling it in a way that I couldn't do. So even if I wanted to take that next step, I don't have the knowledge base to do it in a way that he could do it immediately.
Yeah. One last thing that I think is important is kind of like what you said. Like, you do this incremental thing and the fear that comes with it. Pema Chodron, she has this saying in her book, When Things Fall Apart, that it's about groundlessness. We have this illusion that we're on solid ground. And then when something happens and we're fearful, like our feet come up off the ground, And we're like, oh shit, it's groundless. There's nothing here. I'm trying to step. And then she uses this metaphor about trying to balance on the tip of a needle. You know what I mean? Like you're just trying to find a way to do it. And the secret is to recognize it's not real. There's no ground. There was never any ground. You are falling. You don't have a parachute, but there's no ground. There's no wrong choice. Even if it fails, even if it bombs, even if it's embarrassing, even if you're humiliated, even if it's terrible for you, there's no wrong choice. You make a different choice. You grow, you change, you develop, you challenge yourself in a different way, or you just cross that little goal right off the list and say, oops, just kidding, right? Like there's no ground. When it comes to these things, it is a matter of choice. I'm going to choose to do this. I'm going to give 100%. I'm going to do my best. And whatever happens, I'm okay with that.
You know what I love about the groundlessness? I have never thought about that. But in all honesty, from my perspective, that's almost empowering, because I think people are afraid they're going to get squashed when they collapse and they fall to the ground. And if there isn't any of that, then you have sky's the limit to make the mistakes that you want to, that you can make, and you're going to
fail forward.
You're going to fail forward. I absolutely love that. All right, so just go for it. Kendra Davies, talk it out. Stellar Life Coaching. What's the best way for them to reach out to you and get more of that amazing insight?
Yes, my lovelies, you can go to stellarlifecoaching.com. My phone number is there. You can text or call that phone number. I am tagged on every TED show thing. You can message me, slide into my DMs and try to change your life, right? So you can contact me on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. I'd love to connect and learn more about how I can support you.
You're a joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, darling.
StellarLifeCoaching.com. Reach out to her. Change your life. Take that step. Look, all of you want somebody to help you along. Why not get Kendra Davies to do it? And she hasn't even paid me to say this today. But love your pieces. Thank you so much for all you do. You guys reach out to Kendra. We'll be back next week. Thank you, Kendra. We'll see you guys soon. Bye, everybody.